gonna start recording and welcome everyone. But we have a great session planned this afternoon called "To Pivot and Not to Pivot," and so I had the pleasure of speaking with our panelists earlier this week, and we had some wonderful conversations about how various businesses and organizations are responding to the changes in the world that we have now. And everyone is dealing with somewhat different circumstances and has a somewhat of a different approach. And so with that, I would love to introduce our panelists, Mylinda Viola, Thomas Gardiner, and Kristof Hamilton, just kind of going around the horn there clockwise. And so I would love to, toss it over to Mylinda and just allow, her to give a quick, introduction, and I guess pose the initial question. What did status quo look like for you and your company, just a few weeks ago, and how have things changed?
Dramatically, how things change dramatically. So status quo for us, we have a two-sided platform that includes professional sports teams and small businesses. So right now, with the state of the leagues not playing and small businesses being in trouble, it basically brought us back to our startup phase. However, status quo still stays the same in terms of like our goals. Our goals haven't changed. Everything else is staying the same in that respect. It's just the strategy that's kind of pivoting right now.
Wonderful. And Thomas, would you like to continue and introduce yourself and your organization?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
So actually, the status quo for us is, I guess we were kind of part of the problem. We're in the event industry, and actually our job was to help bring people together, large crowds of people for prolonged periods in person. So I guess the status quo was we feel kind of responsible. But listen, we are now we've chosen to make the decision to go to virtual experiences, and my role here is head of product marketing. So we're kind of beginning the life again of our company, so to speak.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Tom, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. And Kristof, how about you and your team?
Hey, so I'm Kristof. So I lead the digital team at Pride in London. So we're a bunch of volunteers that put on London's Pride Parade each year. So obviously with no one able to leave their homes, that's no longer possible. So everything that we've worked all year for has completely changed for us. But luckily, I have built up a really amazing digital team, and we're looking to see how we can turn the meaning of Pride digital. So it's not about for us putting on an event. It's not about having a parade. It's about giving people some meaning behind that movement experience they get each year. That's what we're focused on.
Wonderful. So in the lead up conversations that we had to today's session, we had a number of conversations about a few different variables, and the two that really stuck out to me were people and business model. So I think that people is a topic that worked out well coming out of the last conversation that folks were watching. And so I'd love to really start there and go around the horn again and hear thoughts on how are we managing the people aspect of this as leaders, and how are we turning what could be a liability or a risk into a point of strength. Mylinda, you want to start?
Sure. People, that's a tough one because you have great people, and as a small business, you tend to have a very small team, and it's like a family that's all working really hard to get to your end goal. And so we've had to make some dramatic changes that I think we will come out of for the better. But in the meantime, those were really difficult decisions to make and kind of change how people were working. So the people part is hard because you say you're making business decisions, but it's very personal, regardless if you're a small business. So that's a tough one.
I completely echo that, to be honest. We I mean, I'm just going to hold my hands up. This completely surprised us, and I think it surprised a lot of people. And it feels like even people that we talk to are still in those two minds, right? What do I do with this? Some people are panicking, and some people manage to maybe get ahead. But in all of this is the story of people, right? And how they're faring and how they're coping. And I think the challenging thing for me even has been leading people in different countries and different time zones that aren't in the same mentality. I mean, I'm in New York City, right? We're in complete lockdown. There's a different mentality. I speak to colleagues in Chicago, and okay, they're probably 2 weeks behind. But I also speak to people in Europe, and they're maybe 2 weeks ahead. And how do you kind of navigate those different psychologies of where people are at? I think I've particularly found that very tough. Kristof, I know you are dealing with people. That's what you do, right? So you probably have the same kind of.
For us, it's really interesting because obviously everything that we're doing as volunteers is to help other people. So we have a real direct influence on our community, and there's no time greater than the LGBTQ plus community being in isolation at the moment. And it's interesting because I totally, I'm very lucky in the fact that like I don't have people's salaries and business overhead to worry about. So with that completely out of the equation, what we've really tried to do is give people the chance to deal with things in their own way, because we acknowledge that this is a volunteering thing. People have work things going on. Like a lot of people have been furloughed or have lost their jobs, or, there's just a time of uncertainty. Equally, that leads to financial worries of, are they going to be able to take care of their loved ones? And it's very interesting because your survival mode kicking in to, preserve your loved ones, your financial income, all that is then at odds with our movement to help other people in the community in need. And it's been really interesting to see people in the team still manage to step up and still manage to come back and do some work for us. But saying that we've lost people in the team. People have stuff going on, and I think the way that we've managed that is just to try and understand how people are coping. So I guess to your point, Thomas, that you've got people in different locations, it's also just people cope with things in different ways. So I've noticed people who are very vocal about how they're feeling, like they're in panic mode. And the way to address that I find helps is just talk to them, have a conversation, let them express themselves. But equally, you've got people that are completely silent and will ghost you. And all you can do is reach out as much as possible to let them know that you're there. And if they need a break, it's okay. And that I think showing some vulnerability as a leader as well, of like, I'm scared, I'm worried, I don't know what's happening, I don't have all the answers. But what I do know is what we can do right now. And I think that's all that any of us in these positions can really tell our teams about, is what we know in the next couple of weeks, because that's the timeline we're working on.
Yeah, I startup as a community, we already have these passionate employees that are looking forward to the upside, and they're excited. Everyone puts their hands in the middle and they do whatever job it takes to get things done. So it really is a tough time with regard to people. But at the same time, you asked about the business model. Our business model hasn't changed. Our strategy to get there has changed. So like a basketball player, when they actually have the ball and they're going to pivot, they still have one foot that's very firmly grounded to the court. And I think that's the most important thing, that we don't panic, that we stop, we take a moment to take in the new reality of what's going on. And once you have clarity on that reality, then you can make a really good decision. And then you have to make it fast because things are moving so fast. But you can't just jump in and panic. You really do have to keep your eye on the ball. Sorry. But if the basket is what you're aiming for all along, that doesn't change. It's just, you have to take a breather as you're pivoting and kind of take a look around and see where the play opens up, so that you can decide what the best decisions for your team are.
So how long did it take you to realize that you needed to pivot? And how painful was that process of coming to that realization? Because the conversations that we had earlier this week, and then the conversations that we've all had with other leaders, friends, family, etc., it seems like there's a wide range when it comes to that answer.
I feel like when they say there's a death in the family, don't make a decision very quickly, don't move, don't do anything rash. So I kind of went through all the stages of grief, I think. I'm not sure what they are, but I know one of them is sort of denial. And I think I was like, nope, we're just going to keep moving forward. We're going to plow along. We have a very firm grasp on our business goals, and we're not going to change that. But it happened so quickly that I realized that was no longer even possible. So for us, I would say 3 weeks, and we started to make some changes in terms of our strategy. Our focus changed a little bit, but our end goal has always stayed the same. We just have to find a new way to kind of get there.
Yeah, I think I echo some of that. I feel like I won't claim credit necessarily for pulling the company out of this. We have a big team of executives and the smartest guy I know, who's our CEO, right? But I will say, going through those stages, we definitely felt like we were spent a long time, and our HQ's in Europe, but we spent a long time in this denial of this isn't going to impact us. I mean, let's be honest, this is unprecedented, right? I don't think anybody necessarily believed, even though we were seeing it unfold day by day in other countries, and the wave was clearly coming from east to west. I don't think anybody really anticipated the magnitude of this, and we certainly didn't. But I think the turning point for us around mid-March was an executive meeting where we decided to really formulate a vision of what we thought the future might look like. And I'll be honest, that original scenario was wrong, right? We put a 2 to 3 month window on this crisis and everything would be back to normal. Well, obviously that's extended and extended and extended. And it wasn't until late March where we were able to really ground ourselves in what is somewhat a realistic model and really make those decisions, like you said, Mylinda, really quick decisions, because then it became apparent that this was not going to be a quick deal. And then you have those different pockets, right? Of New York City is different to maybe the Midwest, to maybe Italy that's in recovery, the APAC that's already kind of coming out the other side and getting their second wave. So yeah, it really helped us to ground ourselves in some research and put those scenarios together. Justin, I know when we were talking, you kind of been through that same process. How was it for you guys?
Sure. So for us at Big Marker, we also kind of caught that there was a heads up coming, as you said, from east to west, because we have an office in China. And so, our team was personally impacted, by it in January. And so, still, I think that there was a bit of a little bit of denial, at least for me personally, that about the magnitude of the impact and how long it would last for, but for us, we decided ultimately that there was going to be a new need in the market for people taking their offline events, their in real life events, and bring them online, virtually. And so we knew that we would have to do things differently than we had done before, because the nature of the goal that our users would try to solve going forward would be different than what it had traditionally been. And so for us, we ended up putting much more emphasis into a new product for virtual conference, execution, large scale, to replace some of these trade shows and some of these, in real life events. Whereas before, our business was much more core, in the webinar online event space, and was less focused on these large scale, in real life events, because that's how it was done. And so we saw this as kind of a broader change, and then made the call that we would have to, change up some product stuff and change up some marketing and positioning stuff, to kind of fit relevantly into the new world. I'd love to hear from you guys, any of those pivots, with regard to whether it was changing your product, changing pricing, changing, customer segments that you're targeting, or other, kind of aspects of strategy or business model that came from this.
I think for us, I think something that we've probably all had to do, I think is the hardest part, is to let go of everything that you had planned. It takes an incredible amount of effort to get volunteers to get into momentum and to have work planned out and a clear roadmap. And we had literally just got there when this all hit. And I think to your point, Mylinda, about denial, that's certainly where I was. Like, it's still going to happen. Like, we'll still continue. Everything will be fine. Everyone will be fine. And it just, the best thing I did was just to put it to one side, stick it, archive it, and then move on and start afresh. And I think that really is what pivoting is not letting go of your goals, but how you're approaching them, literally starting from scratch in the new environment. It's impossible to take what you have done and just try and rework it, repurpose it. You just need to go into it with a fresh mind. So what I was saying in the introduction about, for us, it's not about putting on an event. It's about the meaning behind Pride as a day or a weekend or a month for people. So what we're trying to do this year with our campaign, You Meet Us We, is activate allyship within the community. So with all of us in isolation as individuals, what better a time to work on feeling more connected, as there's a lot of diverse groups within the community, and often there are quabbles between them. And we want to use this time when we're alone to get people to really connect together. So we are planning a bunch of activity in June all over Pride Month, not just for one day, really looking to activate that allyship that people feel on that day. So when people come to Pride, they feel safe, they feel they can express themselves, they feel like they are a part of something larger than themselves. And for us, that's what we're trying to achieve. And we don't have it all worked out yet. I think probably all of us here are still, making small pivots day by day to get where we think is the right place to be. But as you say, with your basketball analogy, with that net in mind the whole time, of knowing each of those small decisions takes us that one step or that one throw closer to getting there.
Yeah,
I guess I could summarize. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say I echo that. Both Mylinda and Kristof said about keeping your eye on the prize, and I think as the head of marketing at SpotMe, it was twofold for me. I had both my plans for the year completely evaporate before me, and also then a need to help the company pivot and my team pivot overnight. But I think what you both said is so true, and even Justin, where you said you get back to the essence of what you're trying to deliver for your clients and your customers, and you focus on that as the goal, and you really work out then stepping backwards from that, using your scenario of what the new world looks like. Like, how do we still deliver that? How do we still deliver that experience, that connection for Pride, for us, for our virtual events? You guys, just in what you're doing, your virtual events now, and then Mylinda for all your communities and your fans. And so, like, how do you still deliver those experiences, what we do, what is our goal in this new reality? And then it becomes a lot easier to then, as you say, scrap everything and really pin yourself down in that vision. I really like that. I think I didn't do that quick enough. I didn't put my marketing plan, just put, selfishly to the side and start afresh. I was a bit slow to do that, but I wish I'd joined this event a couple of weeks ago.
You know what I found amazing? I saw Cint Marshall, who is the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks, on a panel like this. And she talked about how they actually had a crisis management plan, and they were able to turn on a dime and went right into crisis mode and continued to operate. And I thought that was so amazing, because as a CEO of this company, there are no best practices that provide you an answer to the end, except maybe if you're Cint Marshall. And so you just have to make all the right decisions for your business. And one thing that I realized is I never had that kind of clarity. I've always had tremendous clarity for my business. I knew exactly what we wanted, how to get there. I've never had a plan B. We burned the boats. And so now I'm realizing that plan B doesn't mean failure. It just means that, you have to have another plan on how to get there in case this the existing plan isn't in sharp focus.
But it's tough, right? Because you scrap everything and you're basically starting out again. It feels like we are. And okay, we have traction and we have people we can speak to, but for us now it's about learning and dealing with the psychology of who we're speaking to, right? Because they're all in different states of mind. And reading I think it was the Wall Street Journal yesterday about the second wave of unemployment, and now we're not seeing just the people that were amazingly unamazingly impacted from the first round, the actual direct impact. Now we're seeing marketing budgets, like you said before, we're seeing teams shrink sizably outside of that direct impact, and how we deal with that now. We're learning how to kind of pivot, but also deal with that new reality of, for a time being, it feels like we're back in a mini crisis of do people have jobs? Do people have focus? It's been interesting.
So Mylinda and Tom would love to, hear you guys expand on what Plan B, means for you. It sounds like, from the standpoint of what Kristof shared, that, when the how goes away or the how becomes uncertain, the key is to go back to the why. And it sounds like Kristof and his team are in that process right now of kind of carrying through the why to a new set of roots that they're laying. Would love to hear at, Game Day Gateway as well as SpotMe, how that, that is transpiring from the standpoint of, product changes or, other large scale strategic shifts.
Well, the why for us is always for our customers. So It's always thinking about the customers. And right now, our professional sports leagues have a lot going on, even though it seems like there's nothing going on. So to be sensitive to that first is important. And my team, we're taking time to cultivate those relationships, because even though they're busy, they've got a lot of extra time that they wouldn't have had if their seasons were playing. And so we're making sure that we're able to service that more than just acquire the teams and move on to the advertiser side. So for us, it's about really establishing relationships in this kind of setting, and we're also focusing on our software so that when things come back to normal, our software is going to be the most user-friendly. We're never going to stop creating a better experience for both sides of our platform. So that's where our focus is right now. Our only concern is timeline, because if we're not generating revenue, and in my business, it all comes from small businesses and teams, we need a longer timeline to get through that period so that we can generate so that we can make it as a business ultimately.
Yeah, it's I feel like I'm going to answer in two parts. I'm going to answer for the product side, and then my team, just as a marketing perspective. I think for the product side and the way we pivoted was literally once we made the decision that the new reality was some form of virtual experience with events, then it was quite easy to say. It was quite quick that we literally started experimenting. We threw the whole product roadmap out the window, and we literally sat down and in a day had a brand new product roadmap. But it was easier for us because we've always been about the experience and the connection. So for those of you who don't know SpotMe, our status quo is we're an event app that accompanies a large event and drives the engagement, the connection, and the networking at these events. So we could easily see a world where we could take those elements and create them virtually, especially after we took a look at what was already out there. And we part of it was not being first in the game gave us an advantage in that we listened to what other people were doing as well in the market. And so we could see where we could naturally start weaving a narrative and hopefully make some sense for people, for our customers, for their prospects, the same people that we would. So we haven't had to change our audience, but it was definitely about changing the narrative that we're trying to tell them and help them in ways that we haven't necessarily helped them before. From a marketing perspective, I was definitely later, as I said before. But what it means for us is a bit of what Mylinda said, which is building those relationships. And the way that we're doing that now is definitely more focused on social than we ever have been before. We're creating more content. We've got a much smaller team doing it now, but we're trying to create more content and really get back to basics. Because right now, I don't think it matters what industry you're in. People need help navigating this. People don't know what next steps to do. There's a lot of people on this call, on this event right now, because they don't know what to do. Well, your customers and prospects are exactly the same too. So you have to find a way. It feels like every company, every organization has to find a way to help people with the same challenges that you were helping them with before, this new reality. So we're trying to pivot our social and our content around that kind of framework, and that has definitely helped.
One thing I would just add is that I think the hard thing is that we know some of our customer or our users, but so much has changed that like we are really needing to, like I said before, pivot on almost a daily basis. So I think organizations which aren't used to being able to make decisions quickly and implement them are the ones which are really going to have a tough time at the moment, because no one really knows where users are going or where to find them, or we're all learning about those trends at the same time. I think now is not the time to try and change people's behavior. We sort of need to go with it. And maybe that's not something that we're used to. We're used to people coming to us, and we have to go find them now because we want to help them. So I guess just one thing for anyone watching, that, if you are finding it difficult to get decisions through, you need to find some case studies, message us. We can help talk about how you need to be able to pivot quickly and make small decisions regularly to really navigate this, or you'll never get anywhere. It'll be too late.
I also think it's a great time to kind of dream up things and innovate. It's almost like having an empty, a fresh slate. And one of the things that we're doing is we're looking at AI, artificial intelligence, to allow some of the small businesses that never had access to professional sports team advertising before, that'll help them navigate through something and give them a user experience that educates them as well, in a way that, they're not going to be necessarily sophisticated enough to buy something that wasn't before available to them. Now they'll have access to something that's new, and they may not really understand something outside of traditional media. So that's just one example of a time that, although you're keeping your eye on the prize and you're focused and you're grounded, it's also a great time to innovate and have fun with it.
That's great. I guess another question that comes up, from that is, in what ways do you think this is going to impact you long term as a leader? How will you be forever different? And then I would pose the same question, not directed at you, but directed at your companies long term.
Wow, that's the question. I'm not sure I know the exact answer to that. From my own professional perspective, I wasn't even in marketing when the financial crisis hit. And so to now be a leader in marketing in an area that is not new to me, but I certainly haven't been through this amount of rapid change. And we can say this is unprecedented, but I think it's just like Kristof said, those making those small pivots every day and learning to deal with that is definitely a new reality for me. I'm not somebody who necessarily likes to make that many changes to what I'm doing, like day in, day out, but it feels right now, hour by hour, is different. The priorities changing. There's a difference in not necessarily the goal of what we're trying to achieve, but what becomes most important in that hour can change very quickly. And so dealing with that and having, especially now because I'm working from an apartment in New York, right, with my two young children. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and a wife who thankfully takes care of them. But dealing with everybody in the same close proximity and trying to focus on this as well, I think I like to think I'll come out a lot more resilient and ready when this happens again. Unfortunately, I think it will, but hopefully I come out with a bit more resilience and ability to handle pressure.
And patience, right, Thomas? I have 3 children that are remote learning as well, and it becomes quite interesting. I think one of the things that as much as we're trying to make changes swiftly, as much as you're able to front load your employees. I actually had one of my employees say, wow, I didn't see this coming. And I thought, neither did I. So if I had, if you could give more time and front load as much as you can, I think that's a great lesson to come out of this. But I think, no matter what, you have to remain humble, even if you think you've seen everything, because clearly we haven't, and this is new to everyone. And so just trying to be as human as possible and making these business decisions, I think is critical. And I used to kind of look at business as business. That's all it was. And now it's become quite more human. And I always said that my personal life and my business life were kind of one and the same, but really they are. And you really need to remember the human element when we're making all these decisions.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment around, I think, I'm someone that very much likes having a plan. I like knowing what's coming up, and it's been very difficult for me to just like I said earlier, put all that aside and just work very properly in an agile way. I'm very lucky that I don't have any kids to take care of at the moment, but I think there is a really interesting point around, I do almost feel a bit closer to my team and my colleagues because you're experiencing part of their life outside of that role, be it their flatmate cooking or their kids doing homework in the background, and you get to wave at them and say hi and you connect on a different level. I would hope after this is done that people feel more comfortable in blurring that line between the personal and professional, and understanding that we live in a world now where it's okay to have stuff outside of work that's maybe more important than work sometimes. And that's really what this time is teaching us, that there's stuff in people's lives that's more important than the role they were doing for you. And I think as long as you can respect that and treat them with respect and give them the time they need, then, for us at Pride, I guess the long term would be that people that have had to leave because of personal circumstances, they might come back because we've dealt with that situation in a good way, and they feel like, that is someone I'd like to give my time to. Or, for people like you guys, you might have more people stay with you longer because they like the company and how you've dealt with these sort of crises. I mean, there's plenty of other crises, but this is particularly a test of everyone to deal with because there's such an emotional and a business tug of war going on. You as a human being and a leader caring for your staff or your volunteers versus needing to get stuff done to keep your business alive, to help the people that you set out to help in the first place. And it's a difficult line, and I go either way, and I'm sure we all do. But that's definitely what I've taken away from it anyway.
Do you
I know that you live in a big house as well. So what will you take away professionally from this? Definitely some patience, right?
I think patience for sure. I think that it comes down to visibility and being visible, in front of the team and communicating, erring on the side of over communicating with people and just trying to make sure that all of the decision-making processes, all of the communication processes are just honed and tuned. I think that we had the luxury of being able to take shortcuts and be a little bit lazier than we should be. When we're going to the office every day and we're seeing people every day, we don't have to be as deliberate, as intentional or intentional operationally as we have to in this new paradigm, where we really have to, put in the thought and make sure that people are really aligned and we're all marching together. I think the other big takeaway for me has been the importance of giving yourself thinking time and giving breathing room that's required to make the right decisions. Because when we're constantly, Tom, you were saying, things are changing by the hour, and how an adjustment for you has been you're a structured person that loves to march to a plan, and so you're adjusting to this new reality where you might have to throw out the plan that you just wrote yesterday, right? I think we've all felt that, and for me, finding the time to say and having the confidence and the comfort to say, what, I'm not gonna, play whack-a-mole, and I'm going to, take the time to go for a walk, or, do something else where I give myself the space to think about this problem and then come back to it. I think is going to have a profound, impact on the ways of working. I guess I have a follow-up question for you, Kristof, which is, it's really interesting to hear you speak about how, even though the how and the what are changing, and it's a dynamic situation, you've really gone back to the why, and you've rethought, how does this why get implemented in this new world. I think when you and I started talking, I shared with you how a lot of my history with Pride comes from the incredible experience that I've had at the events in various cities around the world, and I think for the brand meaning, so much of it is tied to those memories that people have. Yeah. I'm interested to know is your organization, is there going to be a fundamental change in what it means to people because of the new digital capabilities and digital experiences that you're developing now, that you might not have focused on as much had it not been for this change in the landscape?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we're very lucky in that this year we really did take the approach that we wanted Pride to be a 365 thing and not just a one day. It's great we have Prides all over the world, but after that one day is over, we all go back to our day-to-day lives, and there's things that happen in our day-to-day lives at home, at work, where that feeling we had on Pride Day has faded, and we don't feel as strong, we don't feel as independent and safe as we were. So we were really looking in that vein anyway. So I think we're very lucky that the team that I have, we're already trying to build out things like promoting community events all year round, and now we've created a platform for all the virtual events happening, because for us, a lot of people in our community are entertainers, whether they work in theatre or bars or clubs, whatever it is. And we've got people like DJs doing sets, drag queens doing bingo, makeup challenges, all this sort of stuff, and it's really helping to keep our community connected, because you can't go visit that LGBTQ venue anymore, but you can sort of feel connected to the person you might have gone to see. And I really hope that continues. We're experimenting with hosting our own online events. We're looking at doing gaming fundraisers and things like that, really to support the community, not ourselves at this time. And I hope that the experimentation, the curiosity of people at Pride stays beyond this, because as a digital team, we've grown rapidly over the last 3-4 years. The rest of the organization is still getting used to us always wanting to do everything digitally and online. And I'm really hoping that this is a chance for them to see what's possible and to bring them along on the journey in future. So for us, it could really fundamentally change our organization, not in terms of the fundamentals of what we do, but extra things we could do throughout the rest of the year besides that one event, which we've now, we know what we're doing with it. We've done it for the past 7 years. So it doesn't run like clockwork, but we know what we're doing. We know what the plan is. So I think to your point, Mylinda, around dreaming, thinking of other things you can do, I think now is a great time to focus on that and broaden your mindset, because there's such chaos. We're not under the same restrictions and targets as we once were. So there is a chance to really explore what's possible at the moment, and that's exactly what we are doing, and trying to take other parts of the organization with us.
How about you, Mylinda, with those relationships that you're focused on building? I would imagine that'll bear fruit, and you'll actually come out, stronger on the tail end of this because of the depth that you create.
Absolutely. very much like what Kristof is saying, we're doing the same thing remotely now, and learning how to navigate through those relationships in this kind of setting where you can still be warm and you can educate and you can help. Just trying to find those sweet spots, just to make sure you're really thinking of your customers and not just of your business. Just kind of like try to put yourself in their shoes. I do think that in turn that will come back to help us for sure, because people will trust us and they'll want to be engaged with us. And to be able to, that's my team side, but on my advertiser side, to be able to offer something that they haven't been able to access in the past and help them navigate through that, I think it's just going to make us a better company. And in the meantime, making our software unbelievable and world-class and really super easy for people to use. Because it took me, I don't know, I work for a tech company and I had to call my CTO and say, how do I upgrade my Google Chrome? I was confused. At some point that's going to be like normal. It's going to be like our cell phone. We're going to know how to do all of these things. And if we can just really look to helping those around us, your customers, your employees, the only thing that could happen is good can come back from that. Again, as long as you can maintain, as long as it takes before revenue starts coming through again, that's the biggest issue. But if you're able to do those things in the meantime, it's just going to blossom in the end. And I'm sorry if you can hear my kids screaming in the other room.
I really like what you said, Mylinda. While we were late to decide whether we pivot or not, one of the first reactions we had as a business, because we were trying to maintain those relationships in the long term, regardless of we didn't know what the long term necessarily looked like, was we made a commitment to be easy to do business with. And during this crisis, we very quickly resolved around, as an exec team, being very flexible with our cancellation policies. And I think that's the type of thing you can begin to think about. And if you haven't already, is to think about how you become really easy to do business with. I mean, you hear of various states in the US doing potentially rent payment furloughs or rent payment delays and maybe excluding them. Well, I think it makes sense to think about that kind of thing as a business, right? If you have companies that need to cancel or again pivot or reduce their budget, how do you accommodate that? And how do you become united, but how do you become those relationships really like Mylinda?
Perfect. Well, I want to close out by saying thank you to the panelists today, and thank you for everyone that joined. It was a great discussion, and we really, really appreciated everyone sharing their insights. So thank you so much. And for those of you at home, you'll automatically be redirected to the next session, which is how to support your people in a chaotic virtual world. So with that, we'll sign off and we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you in the next session.